There is something rather curious about this whole business of choice. We are told from the very beginning that life is a matter of decisions, that each step we take, each turn we make, is somehow an act of our will, that we, the captains of our souls, steer the ship through the seas of possibility. And yet, as you begin to look a little closer, a little deeper, something mysterious begins to stir in that assumption. You notice that the chooser, the one who decides, is not quite as solid, not quite as separate as we like to think. For if you sit quietly, perhaps this very moment, and you try to find the one who decides, you may discover a strange thing. You may find thoughts appearing, intentions arising, impulses moving through you. But where did they come from? Did you summon them? Did you call them forth by command? Or did they simply arrive? It's almost as if the mind is a fountain bubbling, gurgling, overflowing, and out of its depths come thoughts, desires, fears, and dreams. And somewhere, amidst all that, we imagine a little figure, the controller, standing on the edge of the fountain with a tiny net, pretending to catch the spray and direct its flow. We say, yes, that was my decision, that was my idea, but was it? Notice, every thought you have appears in consciousness unannounced. You don't choose the next thing you think any more than you choose the next thing you hear. It comes like sound, like wind, like waves washing upon the shore. You may respond to it, you may act upon it, but even that response, if you look carefully, is yet another ripple in the same sea. So, the question becomes, who is choosing? Now, people get rather nervous when we begin to explore this, because the idea that we don't have free will seems to threaten something precious. If I'm not in control, we say, then who is? What's the point of trying, of striving, of being good? But perhaps we are looking at the whole thing backwards. Perhaps the problem lies not in the loss of control, but in the very idea of control itself. See, in the West especially, we have been trained to think of ourselves as little agents, little pilots in the cockpit of the body, pushing buttons, pulling levers, making life go. And this image, though comforting at first, slowly becomes a prison because it isolates you. It tells you that you must hold everything together, that you are the one responsible for the universe that unfolds around you. But what if life is not a machine to be driven, but a song to be danced? Then the whole picture changes. You are not the dancer controlling the dance. You are the dance. You are not making life happen. Life is happening as you. And suddenly, you see, the question of free will becomes rather amusing. It's like asking whether the wave controls the ocean. Does the wave choose its height, its curve, its foam? It seems to move by its own rhythm, and yet every movement of the wave is the ocean moving itself. You are not apart from the vastness of what is. You are a particular expression of it, momentarily shaped, momentarily named, like a whirlpool in a river. Now, some people, hearing this, feel a kind of despair. They say, if I'm not truly choosing, then I'm just a puppet. Everything is determined, I'm nothing. But that's only because we imagine a puppet who resists its own strings. We imagine a marionette who doesn't want to dance. But look again, the string, the hand, the puppet, they're all one movement. And the dance is beautiful only because it moves as it does. Freedom, then, is not in opposing what is, but in realizing that you are what is, that there is no separation between the actor and the action, the thinker and the thought, the chooser and the choice. Let that sink in. When you breathe, do you make it happen? You can say, I am breathing, but notice how it continues whether you pay attention or not. The breath breathes itself. The heart beats itself. The mind thinks itself. So where, in all this effortless unfolding, is the you who controls? The more closely you look for the self, the more it vanishes into thin air. Like trying to grab smoke with your hands. You find only sensations, thoughts, memories, each arising and fading, none of them fixed, none of them permanent enough to be called me. And yet, something remains. Not a thing, not a being, but awareness, the open space in which everything happens. This is what you truly are, not the doer, not the decider, but the witnessing of it all. And when you rest in that seeing, when you stop chasing after control, a great calm appears. Not the calm of indifference, but the calm of being utterly alive, utterly surrendered to the flow. Because you realize that what you once called my life is, in fact, the universe playing through this form, this face, this voice. You were never separate from it. It's like watching the rain fall and saying, I am raining. In a strange and profound way, it's true. You are raining, you are breathing, you are living, because there is no line dividing you from what happens. And so, perhaps we can begin to see that free will and determinism are not enemies, but two sides of the same coin. Freedom is not about having control. It's about seeing there is no controller. And when the illusion of the controller fades, what remains is a freedom so vast, so natural, that it needs no name. See, this is the real paradox. The more you try to be free, the more bound you become. For trying implies the very bondage you wish to escape. But when you let go, when you simply allow what is, freedom unfolds of its own accord. It's like loosening a fist you didn't know was clenched. Suddenly, the hand opens, and there it is, the whole sky resting gently in your palm. Notice how every sound around you, the hum, the rustle, the distant voice, is already happening. You didn't make it happen. You don't need to. And in that effortless awareness, you may begin to sense something extraordinary, a kind of quiet laughter running through the whole of existence. It's as if the universe is whispering, you thought you were in charge, didn't you? And then it smiles. That smile, that soft, cosmic grin, is the beginning of wisdom. For once you can laugh at the great joke of control. Once you can see that life is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be danced. Then the weight begins to lift. You breathe easier. You trust the tide. And in that trust, you discover that choices still happen. You still walk, speak, love, act, but they are lighter now, freer, as if they come from somewhere deeper than the mind's constant effort. You no longer choose against life. You choose with it. Your will and the world's will are no longer two. Imagine for a moment that you are walking through a forest, not a symbolic one, not some mythical garden, but simply a forest branches bending above you, a low wind breathing through the leaves. You hear the crackle of your own footsteps on the path. You did not plan those precise steps, did you? You do not say, now, left foot here, right foot there. You simply walk. The motion arises from you, but not from any deliberate command. The forest moves as you move. You are breathing it in, and it, in a curious way, is breathing you out. That's the secret rhythm of life. Everything moves together, not as separate beings, but as one living pattern, the pulse of the cosmos expressing itself as all these differences. And you, this extraordinary human being, with all your decisions, doubts, and dreams, are not outside of that pattern. You are it, seen from a particular point of view. When you understand that, something softens. You no longer need to make the river flow, because you are the river flowing. You no longer need to force the wind, because you are the wind moving through the trees. That's why all the great spiritual traditions, in their own way, speak of surrender, not as defeat, but as awakening. They say, not my will, but thy will be done. But thy will is not some distant deity pulling strings in the sky. It is the total movement of the universe, which you have always been part of, whether you knew it or not. Now, that does not mean we should become passive. It doesn't mean sitting in a chair waiting for fate to unfold. No, no, that would be misunderstanding the music. When you realize you are the dance, you don't stop dancing, you dance more freely. You don't become inert, you become alive. You act, but without the strain of believing. You are a separate doer, struggling to make things happen. You allow the doing to flow through you. Just as a musician loses themselves in the song, you lose yourself in life. And in that loss you are found. Now, we may ask, if all this is true, why does it so strongly feel like we are choosing? Why do we experience the sense of decision so vividly? That's the great trick of consciousness. Thought comes after the fact, like a historian, writing the story of what has already happened. The body moves, the mind notices, and then the thought arises. I did that. It's a commentary, a label, a narration, not the origin of the act itself. Try this. Lift your hand slowly. The intention appeared just before the movement. But where did that intention come from? You did not create it deliberately. It appeared, as everything does, from nowhere into now. So the I that claims ownership of the action is like a wave saying, look how I make the ocean move. It's not wrong. It's just mistaking the order of things. And when that misunderstanding dissolves, a marvelous lightness comes over you. Because then, every act, every word, every step is seen as a spontaneous expression of the total. Even your mistakes, even your confusions, become part of the divine improvisation. The universe doesn't demand perfection, it plays. And sometimes play involves falling over, forgetting the rules, getting muddy, laughing about it afterward. When you realize that you're not truly in control, you also realize you can stop condemning yourself so much. You can forgive yourself because the self you were blaming was never entirely yours to begin with. You can breathe again, one, and then another paradox emerges. When you no longer try to control your choices, when you allow life to flow, you actually begin to act more wisely because your actions are no longer clouded by anxiety, by grasping, by resistance. They come from stillness, from that deep intelligence that runs beneath thought, like the archer who releases the arrow effortlessly. After years of trying too hard, you find that when you stop trying to be the doer, you finally do with grace. It's as if the universe breathes you into motion. One, feel this moment. Notice the hum behind everything, the faint rhythm that never leaves, like the silent current beneath the surface of sound. That's it. That's life breathing itself. Now, imagine if every thought, every feeling, every so-called decision were simply the ripples of that same current. Wouldn't that be freeing? You'd see that you were never meant to push the river. You were meant to float. And floating does not mean laziness. It means alignment. It means moving as the river moves. So, when you wake up in the morning and decide what to do, you are not manufacturing those choices. You are listening. You are tuning in to the song already being sung through you. You are letting the next note arise, not forcing it into being. The irony is that once you see this, you begin to live more authentically, more creatively than ever before, because you are no longer confined by the narrow idea of what you think you should be. You are open to the spontaneity of life itself. And in that openness, life paints through you as a brush in the hand of the infinite. One, there's an old saying from the East: before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. The actions are the same, but the experience changes completely. Before, you felt like you were doing it, struggling, choosing, deciding, managing, after you realize it's all being done. The chopping happens, the carrying happens, and you are the witnessing of it all. The world breathes in you, moves through you, and then returns to itself. One. And so, my friends, the paradox of free will is not a puzzle to be solved, but a dance to be understood. Yes, you choose, but not as a separate being. You choose as the total movement of life choosing through this form. The bird flies, the tree grows, the stars burn, the heart beats, and you decide all of it one and the same rhythm. When you realize this, you stop fighting the tide. You stop clinging to the illusion of control. And suddenly, the choices that remain, the words you speak, the paths you take, become effortless expressions of harmony. This is what the sages meant by acting without acting, doing without a doer. It is the softest, most natural freedom there is. One. Look, every wave that rises must fall. Every day that begins must end. And yet there is something constant. The sea itself, the silence between the notes, the awareness behind the eyes. You are that stillness. You are that sea. And the movements, the choices, the dreams, the fears are simply how you express yourself in time. So there is nothing to be gained, nothing to be lost, only this eternal unfolding of what you already are. That is why the wise smile quietly. They see that the struggle for control was only the play of waves in the mind, and that freedom was never something to be earned. It was the ocean all along. One. Stop now. Listen. Feel this very moment, unfolding, shimmering, passing. Notice how life is already happening. Notice that it never required your permission, and yet it is you. You as the living awareness in which all this arises and fades. You as the silence between your own thoughts. You as the universe choosing itself again and again through this heartbeat, this breath, this endless dance of being one. And so we don't really choose in the way we imagine. We are the choosing. We are the movement of life discovering itself. In every decision, every hesitation, every yes and every no, the more we surrender to that realization, the more naturally we live, not as puppets, not as masters, but as instruments of the same music that plays the stars, the wind, the beating of your own heart. So breathe and let the music play. For the dance was never yours to control, but it has always been your joy to join.